Welcome back to Spooky Saturdays, my lovelies. Today I have picked out a special story just for you. Welcome to Whispers in the Shadows, the Cabin in the Woods. Deep within the heart of an ancient forest, shrouded by an eternal canopy of towering trees, a cabin stood in eerie isolation. Its weathered timbers whispered secrets of generations past, secrets known only to the wind and the night. It was a place that time had forgotten, where the mundane gave way to the mysterious, a place that dared those brave or foolish enough to cross its threshold. Alex, the adventurous soul of the group, had stumbled upon the cabin's existence while delving into local legends. The tales spoke of disappearances and a haunting presence that had earned the cabin a sinister reputation. Yet, for Alex and their friends, Maya, Liam, Sarah, and Jake, the idea of a weekend getaway to this remote location was too tantalizing to resist. They yearned for escape from their mundane lives, craving the thrill of the unknown. As their car bumped along the rugged path that led to the cabin, excitement bubbled within them, dispelling any lingering doubts. The dense forest seemed to embrace the travelers, its ancient boughs casting dappled shadows that danced across their faces. The air held a faint hint of moisture, a whisper of secrets carried by the wind. The cabin emerged from the wilderness like a relic from another time, its quaint charm offset by an undeniable sense of foreboding. Alex's heart raced as they unlocked the door, the creaking wood echoing in the stillness. The air within was heavy with the scent of aged wood, and the sunlight that filtered through the windows cast long shadows that stretched like fingers across the floor. Excitement soon gave way to curiosity as the group explored their surroundings. They discovered faded photographs hanging on the walls, capturing moments frozen in time, families and faces that had once inhabited the cabin. Yet, the gaze of the figures in the photographs seemed to linger, as if the spirits of the past watched over their guests. As evening descended, the group gathered around the fire, its crackling flames casting a warm glow upon their faces. Shadows danced upon the walls, and the forest beyond seemed to pulse with a life of its own. It was then that Alex's voice wavered, recounting the legends that clung to the cabin's history, of vanished travelers and eerie occurrences. Laughter rippled through the group as they brushed off the tales as mere campfire fodder, the comfort of camaraderie dispelling the unease that had crept in. But as night deepened and the forest's symphony of sounds intensified, a tension settled among them, a tension that defied explanation. Footsteps seemed to echo in the distance, too rhythmic to be mere imagination. As they retired to their respective rooms, unease accompanied them like a shadow. The cabin seemed to breathe, its creaks and sighs an unsettling symphony that whispered of secrets buried beneath the floorboards. The darkness outside pressed against the windows, its weight a reminder that they were not alone, no matter how much they tried to convince themselves otherwise. Unbeknownst to them, their journey into the unknown had only just begun, and the cabin held mysteries that defied their understanding. The night grew deeper, the stars above a testament to the vastness of the universe. And within the cabin's walls, something ancient stirred, its presence a mere whisper against the backdrop of night's symphony. As the night unfolded, a palpable tension hung in the air, a tension that cast a veil of unease over the group's laughter and camaraderie. The warmth of the fire seemed to fend off the encroaching darkness, but the shadows that danced upon the walls held a secret rhythm of their own. The hours slipped away, and with each passing moment, the cabin seemed to come alive with its own haunting symphony. Whispers brushed against their ears like the touch of a ghostly hand, leaving shivers in their wake. The wind outside carried tales that belonged to the woods alone, stories of lives lived and lost, woven into the very fabric of the place. Sarah's nervous laughter broke the silence, her gaze shifting to the window as if seeking solace in the moonlight. "Did anyone else hear that?" she asked, her voice wavering. Liam, who had been gazing into the fire, looked up. "Hear what?" "A whisper, just outside the window," Sarah replied, her eyes wide and searching. The group exchanged glances, their unease shared yet unspoken. It was as if the forest itself had joined their gathering, its secrets seeping through the walls. Maya tried to lighten the atmosphere with a dismissive wave of her hand. "It's probably just the wind, playing tricks on us." But the wind couldn't explain the shadows that seemed to elongate and contract in ways that defied the laws of nature. Nor could it account for the sensation of being watched, of unseen eyes lingering just beyond the periphery of their vision. As the fire crackled and spat embers into the night, the cabin's presence seemed to loom larger, its secrets more insistent. The group's laughter grew forced, strained by an underlying unease that no amount of bravado could dispel. They attempted to distract themselves with games and stories, but each word spoken felt like a futile attempt to drown out the whispers that lingered beneath the surface. Hours turned into an eternity, and as the fire dwindled, so did their resolve. It was Liam who finally voiced the unspoken fear that had taken root in each of their minds. "What if there's something more to these stories? What if there's a reason people never return from these woods?" Jake scoffed, but even his bravado was beginning to waver. "Come on, you can't seriously believe in all that nonsense. We're modern people, not superstitious villagers." The response was a half-hearted chuckle, a thin veil of bravado that did little to alleviate the sense of unease that hung in the air. The cabin seemed to pulse with a presence, its walls echoing with a history that had been buried beneath layers of time. And as the group settled in for the night, sleep proved elusive, each creak of the floorboards, each rustle of leaves outside, a reminder that they were not alone. The night wore on, shadows deepening and merging with the darkness that enveloped the cabin. Whispers grew louder, their words incomprehensible yet laden with a weight that sent shivers down their spines. And as the first rays of dawn crept through the windows, they brought with them a realization: the cabin held secrets that defied explanation, and the line between reality and nightmare was becoming increasingly blurred. Dawn's light brought a temporary respite from the night's terrors, the cabin's walls seemingly exhaling a sigh of relief. The group emerged from their fitful slumber, their eyes weary yet determined to shake off the unease that had settled within their bones. They gathered around the table, their faces etched with a mixture of exhaustion and curiosity. "We can't let these stories get the best of us," Maya declared, her voice carrying a fragile determination. "We came here to have a good time, and we won't let fear ruin it." Nods of agreement followed, the group grasping at the fragile thread of normalcy. They ventured outside, the daylight revealing the forest in a new light, beautiful and serene, yet concealing secrets that had begun to unravel their sanity. As the day wore on, they explored the woods surrounding the cabin, attempting to immerse themselves in the tranquility that lay beyond the cabin's walls. They laughed, shared stories, and even managed to forget, if only for a moment, the unease that had plagued them during the night. But as the sun began its descent, a chill wind stirred, and the shadows once again stretched their elongated fingers across the forest floor. The group returned to the cabin, the familiarity of its interior offering both comfort and discomfort. The fire was rekindled, its flames casting dancing shadows that seemed to mimic the movements of unseen entities. As darkness descended, the cabin's interior seemed to shift, a hallway seemed longer, a room appeared smaller, and whispers once thought to be mere figments of imagination grew more distinct. The group huddled together, attempting to rationalize the unease that had settled upon them once more. "It's probably just our imagination," Alex muttered, their voice betraying a hint of doubt. Sarah's gaze darted toward the window, her breath catching in her throat. "I saw something moving outside," she whispered, her words carrying a weight of dread. The group's eyes followed Sarah's gaze, but there was nothing to be seen, only the impenetrable darkness of the woods. Despite their reassurances, a collective sense of vulnerability had taken root, their vulnerability feeding into the cabin's dark aura. Liam tried to muster a grin, though it was clear he was attempting to convince himself as much as the others. "It's probably just an animal. Let's not get carried away." But the pounding of their hearts seemed to drown out their attempts at reassurance. Shadows grew more pronounced, their edges merging and shifting as if alive. And then came the whispers, soft, insistent, like the hiss of serpents in the dark. "What are they saying?" Jake asked, his voice laced with unease. No one had an answer. The whispers were unintelligible, yet carried an air of malevolence that cast a shadow over their attempts at normalcy. The group's unity began to fray, alliances crumbling under the weight of suspicion and paranoia. As the night wore on, the cabin's walls seemed to close in, its atmosphere growing oppressive. The fire that had once been a source of warmth now cast long shadows that seemed to reach for them like ghostly fingers. Each creak of the floorboards was a reminder of their isolation, their vulnerability. Sleep proved impossible to grasp, the night dragging on with agonizing slowness. Each whisper, each creak, each rustle outside became a torment, pushing them closer to the edge of their sanity. The line between reality and nightmare blurred, and the realization settled upon them. There was a darkness within the cabin, a darkness that fed upon their fear and uncertainty. The night seemed to stretch on endlessly, a descent into a realm where time lost all meaning. The group's nerves were frayed, their minds teetering on the precipice of a maddening abyss. The whispers grew louder, their words taking on a sinister cadence that echoed within their thoughts. Amidst the torment, it was Maya who first caught sight of a figure, a fleeting glimpse, a shadowy silhouette that seemed to vanish as quickly as it appeared. She gasped, her voice trembling as she pointed toward the window. "Did anyone else see that?" The others turned to look, but the darkness outside held its secrets close, revealing nothing. Anxiety rippled through the group, their collective unease giving way to a frantic urgency. They barricaded the doors and windows, as if the physical barriers could shield them from the intangible horrors that encroached upon their sanity. Hours turned into eternity, their minds unraveling as the whispers grew louder, their words no longer mere gibberish, but a chorus of malevolent intent. A veil had been torn between their world and another, a world where shadows danced and whispered secrets that should never have been known. As the group huddled together, the cabin's interior seemed to warp, reality bending to the whims of an unseen force. Furniture shifted, walls seemed to breathe, and the air itself grew heavy with a presence that defied explanation. In the flickering light of the fire, they glimpsed figures, shadows that moved with a deliberate purpose. "Is this some sort of sick joke?" Liam demanded, his voice tinged with desperation. But the figures showed no sign of response, their movements fluid yet unnatural. Fear had morphed into sheer terror, their minds a battleground of rationality and insanity. The cabin itself seemed alive, a sentient entity that reveled in their torment. And then, with a shudder that seemed to ripple through the very fabric of reality, the figures lunged forward, a maelstrom of darkness and despair. The group's screams echoed within the cabin's walls, their cries drowned out by the cacophony of whispers that had become a symphony of madness. Amidst the chaos, the group fought to repel the advancing darkness, their attempts to strike at the figures yielding no results. Desperation fueled their actions, their survival instinct kicking in as they grappled with forces beyond their comprehension. But one by one, they fell, swallowed by the abyss that had claimed the cabin as its own. Maya's horrified cries, Liam's desperate pleas, Sarah's anguished wails, all were consumed by the darkness that had awakened from its slumber. The cabin became a battleground of light and shadow, the very essence of their being fading into oblivion. As dawn's light painted the sky with hues of pink and gold, the cabin stood once more in tranquil isolation. The whispers had ceased, the figures retreating into the abyss from which they had emerged. And within the cabin's walls, only one figure remained, the lone survivor, their eyes haunted, their mind fractured by the horrors they had witnessed. And as they emerged from the cabin's depths, the survivor carried with them a tale of madness and malevolence, a tale that defied explanation, a tale that would forever alter their perception of reality. The group's fate remained a mystery, their souls bound to the cabin's shadowy embrace, a fate sealed by a darkness that had claimed them as its own. As we emerge from the labyrinth of terror woven within the cabin in the woods, let us reflect on the fragility of our perceptions and the darkness that can lie hidden beneath the surface. Sometimes, the greatest horrors are not the ones that manifest in the light of day, but those that lurk within the shadows of our own minds. Remember, dear viewers, that the line between reality and nightmare can be thinner than we dare imagine. Until next time, when we unravel another enigma that dwells in the depths of darkness, I'm Alara, guiding you through the haunting tales of HorrorWise.